Hi everybody, April here from Buddha Tats and Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I know it's been a really long time since I've uploaded any content, recorded a video, but I just wanted to really quick say thank you to all my subscribers, my new subscribers who have reached out to me asking if I would be uploading more content soon, but then everyone that's just kind of stayed around. I did take some time off at the beginning of this year from recording and uploading to this channel. My 2020 started off with a really big bang. So yeah, I've just been kind of taking some time to myself. I even actually stopped reading for other people. I took some time off. It was a much needed break, but I'm really excited to start reading for others again and to jump back into this channel. So with that being said, I'm really looking forward to uploading some more content that goes beyond deck walkthroughs. I know some people in the tarot community feel like, we're getting a little bit wrapped up in consumerism, I guess. But I'm a deck collector, and a big reason I started this channel is because, like most people who collect things, I love talking about my collection, and I love talking about tarot and art in general. So yeah, keep an eye out for that in the future. But today's video, I wanted to do a walkthrough and a review of a deck that I backed on Kickstarter. It's been one of my most anticipated decks of the year. So I'm not really one for censorship, but at the same time, especially with everything going on right now, I did just want to give a heads up in this video that this particular deck, does depict scenes of violence, combat. So if that's something that is very triggering for you right now with wherever you're at in life, this may not be the video for you. It's definitely not made for children. But the deck I wanted to talk about today is the Tarot of Vlad Dracula. This is by Travis McHenry. I promise I know your name, Travis. And the artwork is by Nikita Voman, I believe is how her last name is pronounced. But I know when I saw this deck on Kickstarter, it ruffled some feathers in the tarot community. But I don't know, this deck I feel like kind of represents to me the reason I love tarot. I love history. I'm a total history nerd. I love art. And I love how we can use this ancient system in our modern day lives, just to kind of help with everyday living. So when I saw this on Kickstarter, I do not have any of Travis McHenry's decks. I will leave a link down below if you want to check them out. I'm not sure if this is available. He may have had some extra copies, but again, this was a project I backed on Kickstarter. The bag that it comes in is this beautiful, luscious, velvety green. And we have the Ouroboros, I believe he called this like the dragon seal. I could be wrong, but we have this like Ouroboros dragon seal on the front. This bag is amazing. Yeah, it's lined inside with like satin, and it's just a really solid tarot bag. I do leave the box in the tarot bag just for safekeeping, but even the box is a really solid two-part box. I was a little nervous about this deck when I received it, just because I did forget that the cards are kind of big. And these are the backs of the cards. Now I have really tiny hands, and I'm actually really grateful because this deck is not difficult to shuffle. It actually shuffles like a dream. The cardstock is amazing. It's not, I know I'm getting a little bit of glare just with where the sun is, but it's not a high gloss deck at all. Definitely a smooth finish, but really good cardstock. Now this deck does come with a little pamphlet, little white book, but there was an option on the Kickstarter to go for the like full-on guidebook. And again, with me being, the history geek that I am, I opted for it. Because in the book, let's see if I can do this looking like a jackass. So we see the card, and then there's a historical description. It kind of goes through the life of that Vlad Dracula and how the image you're seeing, how that represents something in the tarot, and it gives the connection between the story of Vlad Dracula and the tarot. And then there is the divinatory meaning for each card as well. So when I saw this, I jumped at it just because I'm one of those people, I tend to really like guidebooks with my decks, and I just love reading about the history behind it, the meaning that went into it. What was the artist thinking? What was the creator thinking when they created this deck? And I do use that to influence my readings and just, the way I read. So again, as you can see from the cover, we know what Vlad Dracula was most well known for. He was a very, feared leader. He is definitely well known throughout history for how he ruled. So I know some people are like, why would you want a deck that just depicts violence and impaling and things like that? It doesn't. I know some cards do, and there's definitely a deeper meaning behind it, and not every card in here. So for example, one of the first cards at the bottom of the deck is the 10 of Coins. See, no depiction of any violence. So it's not, I think, as bad as some people were expecting it to be as far as the impaling images. It's not every card. I actually have had several really positive readings with this deck. So I would definitely say, don't let your preconceived notions or what you already know about Vlad Dracula to push you away from this deck, because it's definitely risen to, I feel like I say this a lot, but it's definitely one of my favorite decks. I've really enjoyed reading with it, and I've really enjoyed getting to know Vlad Dracula. I can definitely see now why so many people love learning about him. Don't get me wrong, probably totally was a sociopath, completely could easily disregard human life. But he also he was just such a critical thinker for that time period. And he could also be very compassionate and very loyal and giving. But with him, there was always a cost. There was always a test, and I don't want to spoil this deck too much, because there's a lot to discover in this deck, and it's a lot of fun to work with, so I definitely wanted to show a little bit of a walkthrough. But this is the deck. I really love this black ink drawings, the black line work. As someone who has tattoos, it just kind of reminds me of a tattoo work or tattoo art. But yeah, this deck really kind of fascinated me because I was a little afraid of how I'd be able to read with it. And again, as you can see, this isn't in order. This is a deck I've been working with, so we're not going to be seeing it in order. But as you can see, it definitely does depict some images of violence. Life isn't always gumdrops and rainbows. But again, it's definitely possible to get a really good reading from this deck. Oh, I'm shaking the camera. I actually really like this wheel card. I know not everybody reads the Wheel of Fortune as like to represent karma, but that is one of the ways I read it. And I love that we see, well, not that I love it, but you know, we do see this like judge, jury, and executioner here, rotating someone on this like torture device, but we do see that it's the wheel of life, or at least that's how I always, you know, as someone who studies Buddhism, when I see the Wheel of Fortune, I just right away think of the Wheel of Dharma. But a lot of times in tarot, people that do read the Wheel of Fortune to symbolize karma often talk about the turning of the wheel, you know, and it's kind of, it represents that notion that a lot of times our perception and how we view and relate to the world, the energy we put out into the world, comes back to us. And that there's this cyclic nature, like what goes around comes around. I know a lot of people don't believe in that, and I'm someone who strongly does. So for me, I liked this. But yeah, I'm really impressed by how this ties the life of Vlad Dracula into the divinatory meanings behind the tarot. And I really appreciate that Travis McHenry took so much time and dedication into historically researching Vlad Dracula's life. Ooh, sorry, husband just texted asking if I want a nice coffee. Of course I do. But yeah, that was really surprising, just because sometimes I think when deck creators do that, it can be either hit or miss. And you know, by him sharing the history of Vlad Dracula's life and tying it into the meanings of the tarot, you really begin to kind of understand what shaped him, you know, into the kind of ruler he was. Even though he was a ruthless kind of ruler, he could also be extremely loyal. And he took his role as an emperor, as a ruler, not emperor, but like, you know, as a ruler very seriously. And he felt like it really was his duty to protect his people. But he was not someone you would want to try to play or take advantage of. But I absolutely love the artwork by Nikita Velman, I believe is how it's pronounced. And I don't know, I do kind of feel like this deck has a little bit of a crude, dark humor to it. Like here we see the Fool, and it's the peasant and his wife. And I don't know, when I read this as like the Fool, to me he just looks completely clueless to what's going on in his life and in his family and like with what's going on around him. But I just love this detail. And I really do love the size of these cards because the details do not get lost in the images. So I'm eager to know what your thoughts are about this deck. Do you think this is something you could read with? What are your thoughts about the artwork or about a deck created around Vlad Dracula? Me personally, I love all things Halloween, paranormal, anything history or art related. So this deck was right up my alley. Loved and feared ruler for sure. So this is the Judgment card, and it's him at his father and brother's graves. I believe they had been murdered. But there's several cards in here that give you an idea of why he was the way that he was. He lived during a very, very violent time, and I believe the kingdom he was trying to protect was quite small in comparison to some of the other rulers that were taking over lands. So that's one reason he was such a ruthless ruler. He fed off of fear. That was the whole point of him impaling people outside of his kingdom, because it would scare off others. Usually when people run up seeing that, it's not a surprise they'd want to run the other way. So again, please feel free to leave me some comments down below. I would love to know what you think of this deck. I really love it. And I'm really, really excited that I finally backed a Kickstarter by Travis McHenry. He is an amazing deck creator. Definitely check him out on Instagram as well. He even does free readings from time to time. I know I joined one of his free readings recently, and it was great. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and keep an eye on my channel for future videos. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon so you'll be alerted for my next video. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys again real soon.